Hey, everybody, this is Lauren deLisa Coleman, and I am back with you again for another episode of the Inside series here on film.io. And we are still going strong during aaiff, the Asian American International Film Festival. And I am super into being able to bring you this next interview because I've literally had to stalk this man through several different recent film festivals. His film is doing so well. I mean, it's just so many accolades because it really is just such a fresh take. And I am really, really thrilled to be able to bring you this interview right now with Christopher Kahunahana, who is the writer and director behind Waikiki. Christopher, welcome to the show. I'm just so excited to be able to speak with you. I mean, we've already been speaking a bit offline about all kinds of things and all of your travel, but this is the official welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm grateful that we were able to coordinate this thing. I know we've been trying to get this together, and it's great that we have a chance to talk.
Christopher just made it back to his HQ in Hawaii, and I think you can just see like really the Zen vibe there. I can only like imagine what it would be like outside. So thank you so much.
Yeah. I live in my office is kind of in a space. I edited the film in this space. Actually, I wrote it and edited here, and it's indoor, outdoor, and it does give me the opportunity to breathe fresh air and be a part of nature. So it was really inspirational and comforting.
It's beautiful. It feels like that. So perfect segue into a brief synopsis, if you will, of Waikiki for our viewers.
Waikiki is about a Hawaiian woman named Kea and the contemporary issues which plague the Kanaka Maoli community or Hawaiian community, which are caused by intergenerational trauma. As she's trying to find a place to live, trying to make a living in one of the most expensive states in the United States, she's also forced to address some of her traumas, her past traumas, and hopefully come to a greater understanding and connect to her kupuna, her ancestors, and the aina, the land.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, it doesn't give too much away, but I want to add a little bit of context about this because, as I said, you just have been invited to show this film in so many different prestigious film festivals. And let me just see, reading my notes here. I mean, it's already been awarded, let's see, the Grand Jury Best Feature Award at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival and Best Cinematography. It really is just amazing and almost, to use a cliched word, like hypnotic to watch. But the colors and everything are just so very rich. You yourself are a Sundance Lab Fellow, and I'm just really intrigued about, your background, work that you've done with the Smithsonian. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how, you kind of came to create this project and maybe some of the challenges around it. I just want to give our viewers a little bit of context. This film, I think, is just so great because, within some of the statements that you've made, Christopher, that I've had a chance to read, it kind of takes us beyond the idea of Hollywood using Hawaii as a backdrop, right? And being able to see more of the gritty side or the dark side. I think the best description that I read about it was, behind the facade.
Right.
That, it's just everybody's happy and, eating whatever the traditional foods are. And it's just beautiful. And that's it. There are real lives happening here and drama and grit. And so me who personally loves anything gangster and behind the scenes, like I was like, okay, bring it on. So tell me, about this because you are a native of Hawaii. I'm sorry, which island?
I live on Oahu,
Okay.
in the city of Honolulu. And in the Kingdom of Hawaii, correct? Yeah.
So you were born and raised there. So obviously this film was inspired maybe by just, the fact that what's up in Hawaii. But how did you manage to bring that to the screen? And I mean, it must have been challenging because why haven't we seen any of this before, Christopher? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just amazing. That's 2021.
Yeah.
And we're seeing like this type of story out of this part of the world.
I think we touched on it a little earlier. It's like things happen at the right time. And I come from a long continuum of amazing storytellers. Hawaiian has an oral tradition. We didn't have the written word. So all our history and our understandings of nature and our connection to the universe have come through stories. And so we have a rich tradition of storytellers. Hawaii, unfortunately, there hasn't been many Kanaka Maoli pursuing. I mean, I guess they pursued, but it's been honestly really difficult. I've been trying to make a feature film for the last 20 to 30 years.
Wow.
So in the process, you make shorts and you seek funding and you try to refine your pitch and hopefully find a way to get a feature film made. As all feature filmmakers know, independent filmmakers know, it's just difficult. But I think it's doubly difficult when you have to deal with a lot of the systems in place which haven't allowed access to capital. So as an oppressed population, as people who have dealt and are dealing with colonialization, um, it's been difficult. But like we were mentioning, the timing is right. People are more open to actually. They're tired of hearing the fake story and seeing Hawaii as just a singularly a beautiful place. There's people who live here, like you said, and our stories are human stories, and an authentic telling of these stories, I think, are what people are starting to really appreciate. And I think that's the potential and opportunity as a filmmaker, is to share a little slice of the world through our perspective as a Kanaka Maoli, and so we can address some of the issues that we have in our communities. And I'm just honored to be able to share these stories. And I think it's like like I was saying, it's a continuum. So it's like, this is what we as Kanaka Maoli are doing and should be doing in the present context. This is storytelling. This is how we would be sharing and how we do share our stories. So thank you so much for the invitation to talk a little bit about the process and
Oh, my pleasure. Because I mean, I think there have been a number of different kind of reviews that have said that many feel that, I mean, typical critics of the film, I'm more of an interview of the personality, but true critics of the film have said that they feel it's the most important film to come out of Hawaii really ever. And I think that is both, it's great, but it's also, burden. How are you going to follow this up, Christopher? Because it's not easy. But I think because you said earlier that you have just been working at this for so long that, once you reach a kind of pinnacle of this sort, you have so much kind of behind you that you can then kind of fly, from there.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's maybe what helped you with the connection with Sundance, or did that come about
Sundance was an amazing opportunity. Their indigenous program, which was formerly the Native Labs, had read an early version of the screenplay, which was formerly called Kareke Kings. And, without organizations like Sundance putting their support behind indigenous voices, it makes it more difficult, right? So that really gave us a leg up. So kind of with Sundance's support, the screenplay got to go through multiple labs, writing labs, and the story got refined. So by the time we were ready to shoot, we had crafted a story that we thought would resonate with larger audiences, although it was very specific to our community.
So now, how long was it start to finish on this screenplay? I mean, when you first broke out the laptop and started to the time you started shooting, was this significant?
Yeah, no. So I think I'm kind of from the Werner Herzog School of filmmaking, which is like, in order to have something to say, you have to have lived a varied and interesting life. And I think it really starts there. It's like, a lot of people just go to film school and they don't have an opinion on their existence, or, they don't have that many experiences. So I'd suggest filmmakers always should, love truly, have your heart broken, trying to experience as many things as possible, working interesting jobs, meeting different types of people, having these tougher conversations, I think really inform me as an artist. And I think if it's not in the artist, then you can't put it on the screen. So it started a lot longer. I mean, one thing about growing up in Hawaii, we do have a lot of, stories to tell. So I think in that sense, I was at an advantage. The disadvantage came because we don't have a system for in place to fund these projects, right? So that was the challenge. Is like, how do I get to make a film? How do I have the opportunity to make a film? You know, I've always seen film and thought, man, I really want to do that, but how do you do that? And for me, it really took commitment and perseverance. It's like this particular project took me 6 to 8 years from the time I wrote it to the time it was through post-production and premiered. And I think that kind of perseverance, I think, is really what allows people to gravitate and create a gravity so a project can see its way forward. It's like, if you don't bet on yourself, then who's going to bet on you, right? And I think nature and the universe really respects that kind of commitment. And fortunately, I was given the opportunity and the kuleana, which is the responsibility to tell this story. And so I'm just so happy that the timing of everything kind of benefited people's acceptance of the kind of themes that I was dealing with. You know, there was a lot of pushback initially because thematically, no one really wants to talk, especially in Hawaii, about the effects of tourism or over tourism on the resources and the land. And, you know, there's people like, why would you want to say something like that? I'm like, well, it's true. You know, it's like, it's inequitable. It's all our resources are being utilized by an industry that, you know, pays on average less than minimum wage, you know. So it's like, if that's one of the main industry, how has this benefited the people of this land? You know, we come from this land, our bones are in this land, our lineages, our genealogy is from this land. Like, how is this benefiting us? And it, you know, it's like, it's unsustainable and it's inequitable. So I think our job and our responsibility as artists are to you know, ask those tougher questions. And I think if we don't, then who will?
That's just, I mean, so amazing. And I think that it's important to hear that, because oftentimes creatives of color have a number of different, you know, kind of missions, if you will, at the same time, right? You always have to juggle. And people
stay
don't
alive is number one, right? Like, stay alive.
Yeah.
That's like number one.
Stay alive is number one.
Dude, that's my.
And then whatever your creative project is, and then, you know, if you are hopefully mindful enough, bringing the rest of something else along with you. You're doing this simultaneously all day, every day, and really not knowing any other way to do it, right? Because of where we are in this point in time. And if you can look at it as an honor rather than something that's heavy, like it sounds like you do, then that's always a very cool thing. I just think that it's fascinating that, you know, like you said, you really persevered and were able to stay with the project for so long, especially for funding. Did you use any, I don't know, specific either techniques or presentations that you helped put you kind of over the edge? I know that now, finally, you know, in the entertainment industry, or I guess I should just say filmmaking more specifically, it's all about the deck. Whereas, like, you know, a lot of us in business, we're using decks. Like, I don't like doing them. Just don't get me wrong. But we've always had to use, you know, some kind of presentation deck, right? Keynote, PowerPoint, whatever. Now this is the hot thing.
I think it's pretty standard.
Like that, or what? And what would that like for you? Because you don't strike me as somebody who's like, let me create a deck. I mean, you know, I think yours would be something that would be a more creative approach. I don't know.
You know, honestly, that's kind of standard for the industry. So I have you know, I'm lucky to have one of our producers is an amazing graphic designer. And
you were lucky.
It's that thing, if a tree falls in the wood and nobody's there to see it, then you know, doesn't really even happen. And so we know we had to bring the profile of the project up to the extent that people thought it was a reality, you know, or could see it as a reality. And I think a deck really helped do that. We did shoot like sizzle reels, you know, we did test shoots where we took some of our, you know, the ideas and scenes that we thought would show some of the range of the actress and some of the themes, and we, you know, cut a little sizzle reel. But yeah, I'm very fortunate to have Nicole Naone, who's an amazing graphic designer on our team, who's really helped with the marketing and the fundraising. I mean, without those things, it's like people invest in films, but they also invest in you. So I had a lot of people who were willing to invest in me because I have a strong support from the community. I've been working in the arts community for a long time here in Hawaii, so I knew that was there. But I think what they really need to see is a document or some way for them to understand the vision of the project. And I don't think anybody understood what we were doing, like honestly, but I think
It
it was
hasn't
enough.
really been done before, right?
Yeah,
What happened?
I think that everyone's gratefully surprised, at the film's reception. I think people had, plans for it to premiere here in Hawaii, and that was the extent of it. But I always, and our team always thought these ideas and these questions that we're asking with this project would resonate with a larger audience. And I'm excited to see that it affects people. People feel for the main characters, and I think that's a thrill. And as an
I mean,
artist,
it's a human story. It may take place in Hawaii with pulling on an ancestry, but it's not like something that you don't, understand and can identify with, I think, most importantly. Did any of the work that you did from, or rather with or for, I guess I should say, the Smithsonian play a part in this? And, whether it did or didn't, would you mind kind of touching on that? Because I really haven't met anybody before who has worked with the Smithsonian in the capacity that you have. And I just found that really interesting.
Yeah, no, it was a Smithsonian's Asian American Museum. We're looking for pieces, documentary pieces on a day in the life of our community, and we were in the process of shooting a short film called Lahaina Noon, and I kind of took the characters from that film and say, hey, it'd be good to give them more experience with working on a film set, but I kind of wanted to set it up as if it was based in reality. So it was kind of weird because it was a pseudo documentary. So I had them be their characters, but in a realistic situation. And the characters aren't so different than the actual people. So it was very easy for them to bring forth some of their true emotions about their situation in the context of Hawaii and in the context of a documentary project. And we were excited. We just shot it in a day, and it was well received. And I think it gave us the opportunity to see our work and how it'll be accepted into a larger audience. And we're grateful for the opportunity through the Smithsonian. And I hope to be working with them again.
I was wondering that. I was actually going to ask that just next, but I didn't know if you knew or not. Obviously, this was
they were amazing. They have National Museum of the American Indian, or NMAI, Smithsonian NMAI, and also the Mother Tongue festivals. So they're both initiatives of the Smithsonian Museum. One has screened the film already in their festival, and it was well received. And then it's going to be screening again in another Smithsonian festival presentation. I think it's in the fall. And so we're excited about that. Like we love the audience that's attracted to these projects through the Smithsonian. We've gotten so many great a great response to it. People understand what we're trying to do, and that's the greatest thrill as an artist is to have people understand why you do what you do, and be affected by it. We also my producer and I, Nicole Naone, are also currently working on a piece for the Honolulu Museum of Arts, and it's a installation piece for the Artist of Hawaii exhibition. And we're working with an alakai, or leader of the movement to protect Mauna Kea. His name's Lana Kila. And we had the opportunity during post-production of Waikiki, Nicole and I, we felt how the reason we make film is in order to preserve our culture or perpetuate our culture. And this was Mauna Kea, the movement to stop the building of the 30-meter telescope on Mauna Kea, was our culture live and direct and in the present. So we knew that was where we should be, and we volunteered our services and lived at the base of Mauna Kea for 6 months of the year, and put the post-production of Waikiki on hold. And we volunteered as part of the Naleo Kako, which was the media arm of the Kia'i movement to protect Mauna Kea. So, she did a lot of graphics and built websites and such. And I, as a director, I, was a cameraman, and I shot a lot of the footage of the unfortunate arrest of our kupuna, our elders on Mauna Kea, as they stood up to protect our land. And it was a life-changing experience. Honestly, it showed me the commitment that our elders were willing to make in order to protect our aina, and it kind of gave me the courage to, in interviews, say that's a big part of the reason why I do this, what I do. I want to be a good example for other Kanaka Mo'oli, to stand strong, to stand pa'a for what you believe in.
It's such kind of a rich background that you have, Christopher, because you're massively creative, but obviously at the same time very much almost an activist, which it sounds like you're happy to do that, right? You're happy to take on that role. And I think as this film kind of achieves like more accolades, and you are kind of expanding its presence, I feel like you're going to be more and more of like the spokesperson for like kind of contemporary Hawaii or richer view. How do you kind of see yourself in that position? Because like you said, there is the side that maybe doesn't want you to talk about certain things, and the side that does, and then there's your own views. As somebody of color, a lot of times you get that, as I was saying earlier, you're not only balancing a bunch of things at the same time, but you're also like this de facto spokesperson of things that maybe you don't even want to or don't even know about. How have you kind of been able to manage that? What do you think is going to be up next for all that?
Well, as you know, as a person of color, we're not monolith, so we don't feel the same way, and you can't be a spokesperson for all the people of all Kanaka Mo'oli don't feel exactly the same way I feel. But I do feel that as a responsibility that my ancestors placed me in this time and at this moment for this particular reason, and I just try to I respect that, and it comes with a certain responsibility and burden. It's a burden, but in a lot of ways it's like an opportunity. I mean, like I said, if it's not you, then who else would do it, right? And if it's not now, then when? And I think it's the time is right for we can't like kind of step around the issues. We have to address them as they are, and people, I think, are open to it now more than ever before.
And it doesn't hurt when the project looks so amazing. To jump back to that for a moment, how did you guys? Yeah, because like I said, I fell in love with it even just from the poster, because it's just the colors and the font that's used and all of that. But I guess kind of just to look just really quickly at the cinematography, how did you kind of come to work with, I don't know whether it was, assuming your DP on this, how do you decide how the film is actually going to look like together as a writer director, that dance with your DP? How does it turn into, what we see with Waikiki? Was that important to you, like from the beginning, or how does that did he kind of suggest it, he or she, or how does that come about?
No, so our DP is Ryan Miyamoto. He's a talented cinematographer. He's also Native Hawaiian, so we had a shorthand understanding of what we were trying to do. So the vision was very similar, and we seen our whole life the misrepresentation of our culture and the imaging of Hawaii as paradise, and we knew we had to. We didn't want to portray it in the same way, so it was difficult. I mean, Hawaii is really as beautiful as everybody thinks it is. It's like, while we're shooting, for us to not capture a rainbow was like almost impossible. We'd have to turn the camera completely opposite way and like, wait, that sunset's too beautiful. We have to look at, and it's so funny because initially I got a lot of critiques for it because people were saying, like it looks like Skid Row, like it could have been shot anywhere. And I was like,
Right. So true. So
well,
true.
that's kind of the point, like, so like we want to juxtapose the beauty and majesty and sacredness of nature against the rapid overdevelopment. And I think that kind of contrast in thematically and in imagery really creates the momentum and the power of the film. Also, in terms of color, I did have the opportunity to work with two amazing colorists from Nice Shoes in New York, based in New York. And it was Maria. She was the head colorist. And I'm blanking on the name, but they were amazing. And they really helped refine what we were doing. So like they really helped set the color palette. Although we have been working towards a direction the whole time, they really helped refine the themes that were coming through because of the tones and colors of particular scenes, and help us separate some of the ideas by use of color.
In closing, Christopher, because you've been through, a bunch just with this project alone, but just overall, of course, like you said, because of where you're based. So you obviously have to have some advice, not really as an elder statesman of filmmaking, but, certainly as a major force now coming from Hawaii. What maybe major thing have you learned over these, like I think you said 20 years that you've been trying to get a feature made? What would you share with either a filmmaker who's, just starting out, or maybe even in your same position, but, trying to do this from another country? What's a main takeaway that you have put under your belt after all this time?
Well, as a person of color, I joke about it a lot, but first of all, you need to stay alive. It's truth. It's like a lot of our voices are snuffed out way before their time. So unfortunately, that's like a truism in our communities, so that. And then I said, secondly, constantly make small steps because they add up over time. And, don't have to try and capture everything immediately. And if you just keep making moves forward, make the next best move. So see where you are, make a small move, and those things open up. The path will become clearer the farther down the path you get, right? And I think if you never give up, then if you don't say it's done, then it's never done. And eventually, everybody has to agree with you. It's like you have to be that stubborn, like,
yeah,
like that's never gonna happen. You're like, yes, it is. And then just let them go on, and even it's amazing, but eventually you'll see all these opinions go like, wow, we didn't think it could happen, but after seeing it happen, it makes it more a reality for everybody else. So sometimes you have to live your own reality and push forward when people don't believe in what you're doing. And over time, if your intentions are right, people will definitely get behind it. So I think that's the best advice I can give on most anything, is like make sure your intentions are correct and come from a place of right, being right and knowing what you're doing is going to benefit everybody. Don't be an exploiter, and move forward consistently. And eventually with time is like the X factor. You take anything, if you start today and you multiply it times time, even if you suck at something currently, you eventually get decent enough at it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That and a good graphic designer, as you said, can
Great
take you a long way, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Gotta have that. Well, Christopher, I can't thank you enough for taking time out, especially, you're just getting back there and settled. So I appreciate it. And I have to say, I am kind of jealous of the vibe going on behind you right now. And I heard some more birds, but I'm still going to try and hold it down here in New York City. That's okay. Don't worry.
You got it. You got it.
Thank you so much, and continued success with the film.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on the project and, share some time with you.
You're welcome. It's absolutely our pleasure here at film.io. And I hope that all of you watching have enjoyed this as well. And we're going to be doing nothing but bringing you more of these episodes as time goes on, and different film festivals from all over. So this has been another episode of the Inside series, and I am Lauren deLisa Coleman. Thank you for watching.